Your college basketball weekend is here.
Rise and fire. Count it.
Instant classic.
The slipper still fits. When they need baskets, they go to them. 2 to tie, and 3 will win it.
From Cinderella runs to covering at the buzzer, we've got your winning playbook covered. This is BetQL U with John Martin and RJ Choppy, presented by BetMGM.
Yeah, there you have it, folks. The Final Four is set. Welcome in to BetQL U as we get you ready for the Final Four. It is UConn, Purdue, NC State, Alabama. That is your Final Four of the season. Two teams that I think we certainly expected, and two teams that we most definitely did not. So we'll be breaking down those games, get into some bets there a little bit later in the show. Also, some coaching changes that we will touch on. The carousel is spinning around. So we'll touch on that. I'm John Martin, as always, joined by RJ Choppy. RJ, listen, I would say just at first glance, the best thing is we have the two best teams still in this thing, right? I mean, we didn't have that last year, and we do now.
Yeah, I mean, you've got one team that is a dominant force, and then you have another team that has the dominant force. And I think that's the big issue is that, you know, how does one stop the other? Let's be fair. I mean, like UConn is a much more complete team than Purdue is, but Purdue has something that nobody else has, and that's something that he's a monster. Like Zach Edey's just a monster, man. Like he is such a force inside there underneath. These are the two the best teams right now. And I don't know who the third and fourth best teams would be if you were to worry about them today. We would just take the four best teams of the entire tournament, but NC State and Bama certainly deserve to be there, based on how they have approached this thing. And you can always make the case, well, would Houston have been here if Shed didn't get hurt? And what about this and what about that? Doesn't matter, man. Like they're there. And it's I'm sorry, NC State, would they have gotten there if Houston didn't get some injuries? They're there. And now, like, I know the fans and I know the committee has hopes of what the final game is and final game isn't. You don't want to see a massacre out there. And I think we want to see that collision course with the two best teams that have been essentially the two best teams all year.
Yeah, no, look, you can play that game, and you can play it every year with every team. And that's the beauty of this thing. That's why we love it so much. I say it every week, it feels like, but I did feel absolutely devastated for Kelvin Sampson in that group, though, RJ, because, I mean, we'll never know, but it looked like they were well on their way to go into the Elite Eight. I mean, with Chet in there, they were, really, I mean, they started the game on an 8-0 run, and they were up 16-10, and you just kind of felt like Duke would not have an answer for the physicality. But what happened, it wasn't just that, you lose Jamal Shedd's production, which they did. It was really everything he represented, right? It was everything Jamal Shedd meant. And you can't just replace that on the fly in the same game against a good team. They just look shell-shocked, and they never and they fought hard, but they never really stabilized after he left.
No, you can't. They would have much rather have lost him on Wednesday than on Friday. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they would have given him a second to prepare, catch their breath, figure things out. Yes. You lose him in the first half, it's like, okay, like, now what are we going to do? You got 12 minutes at halftime to figure this out. You lose them in the second half. It's like, well, you got no time to figure it out. So, yeah, there's a time and a place to lose your star player. And the time is not the final week of the season. It's not during the middle of a game in the tournament. It's January. It's December, to give you some time to figure things out and see what you have and see who you have. It ain't now. That's not the time to do it. These teams – look, and this goes to show you, man, like, what it takes to make the Final Four. What it takes to make it. Like, you have to get a good draw. You've got to get lucky, man. I mean, like, Alabama makes their first Final Four. They had to go through Carolina, but they didn't have to go through Carolina and Arizona, right? You didn't have to go through that. It's that's the thing. I mean, if you look around, Illinois had to go through Iowa State and UConn. Tennessee had to go through Creighton and Purdue. Sometimes you get dealt a draw. Sometimes you get dealt some upsets, and sometimes you don't.
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, it's not even about just playing well, It's about staying healthy. It's about and we talked about Houston. Houston's had bad, injury fortunes in this thing the last few years. Sasser last year, Shed this year. And they got good fortune when they went on the Final Four run because they played double-digit seed after double-digit seed. Like good luck and bad luck has many different ways of manifesting itself, in this tournament. And Houston's kind of lived it all. I mean, that for me, obviously we'll talk about the games, the final two games, but I just feel like for me, the takeaway is like Houston had a run in them that we never got to really see. And they're going to feel like forever that they got unlucky. And so there's unfortunately not much you can do about that, but that maybe what could have been, because I saw them here in Memphis against Texas A&M, and it was as gutty a win as you can have. 4 players fouling out, sending Texas A&M to the free throw line 1 million times, giving up all those offensive rebounds, still winning. It has kind of felt like after they lost Shed, RJ, that just like, damn, we've given everything we have just to be in this game and just to beat Texas A&M, and that is the cruelty of March. It is relentless, man. It demands the most every single day, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's hard to get here. It's hard to get to that spot. Dude, it's hard to make the Elite Eight. I mean, how many teams have just continued to flame out in the Sweet 16 every year or the round of 32? Kentucky can't even get to the Sweet 16 right now. It's just hard to get here, dude. Like, my school's been in the Elite Eight twice. Never been in the Final Four. Came close twice. Never been there. It's hard. You've got to get a draw. You got to get a good draw in a year where you get a really good team. You've got to have that. You got to get a little lucky along the way. And it's just difficult. Like, and then for a team like NC State and Purdue, like, to think they haven't been to a Final Four since Michael Jordan was in college. That's a long time ago. It's a long time ago, man, for both those schools. And I mean, they and there are schools like Alabama getting their first. Did the SEC forget about basketball for 50 years? Like, is that what happened? Because a lot of these schools are like making, like, Auburn made their first Final Four one year, then Alabama makes it. And it's like, okay, so it was just basically Kentucky. It was basically just Kentucky figuring things out in the maybe a little bit of Arkansas too. The SEC just forgot about basketball for half a century. And now they've gotten into it. They're really good. Now you get a team like Alabama who makes a run.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts that Alabama's in this thing. It's just, again, the variance. On Tennessee, obviously we've talked a lot about Tennessee this year, and I mean it's hard to. There was nothing shameful about that game for them against Purdue. They just could not defend Edey without fouling. Now, do you think that was mostly correctly called? Do you think that Purdue was getting the benefit of the doubt with the whistle? Like, just from your vantage point, what did you think about the way that game was officiated?
I thought there were 2 that I had a problem with, so I can't really say I have a major problem with them. I thought, maybe Edey could have been called for 1 or 2 other fouls. I mean, that's the one that I really had an issue with was he was on the offensive end. He had the ball down low. He wraps it up. Like, how you get a rebound and you wrap it up, both arms around it.
Yep.
He does that, but then he moves his arms up like that with the ball still there. And they called that a shooting foul. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. That's not a shooting foul. You're not trying to shoot the basketball there. Like, you want to call it a common foul, fine. But that's not a shooting foul. I didn't have major gripes. I mean, was it, the nature of the way Purdue plays and the way you've got to defend him?
Right.
you're gonna foul more, and that's just the reality of it. Now, could they have called a couple on him on the other end? Yeah, I think maybe one or two. But that certainly wasn't going to put him in foul trouble. It wasn't going to foul him out. He barely came out as it was. So I didn't have a major issue with how the game was officiated. They had some shots when they had to at the end, and we didn't score for the final couple minutes. It was there. It was tied at what? It was tied at 60 with
It was.
3 minutes to go. We had a chance.
I was super impressed with connecting that game. I mean, because it was just he was the focus. He was the only person who was doing anything offensively, and yet he was keeping Tennessee in the game. I think that's if I'm a Tennessee fan, to me it ain't about the fouls. It's about the fact that nobody else could help Dalton connect on the offensive end. I mean, where was Ziegler's shot? Where was Josiah Jordan-James consistently? Vescovi gave you nothing. That's sort of where that would be my frustration with Tennessee basketball if I'm a fan today.
Yeah, I didn't think Josiah had a terrible game. I don't think they got him the ball enough, which means he didn't get open enough. Ziegler, I think he was just gassed. I mean, he played 40 minutes in the previous game, and that previous game, they played that game at 10 o'clock, and this one started at like 2. It was like 36 hours earlier. Not even a full 2 days. I think he was just gassed. I think that's all that was. I don't think it was anything that anything more than that. And that's the reality of it. He was tired and he couldn't make a shot. He did nothing. He wasn't great defensively. He couldn't shoot. That was basically it. They ran into a mutant of a human. Like he is, man. He is a mutant, Zach Edey, and I don't feel bad about it. I look, the Michigan State loss from 2010 still hurts way worse. We were better than Michigan State, way better than Michigan State, and should have won that game. Gave it away. That one hurts way more than this one does. Losing to Creighton would have hurt more.
Right. Yes. No. There's no question. And again, like I said, we'll get to Edey and we'll get to the matchups there. But I mean, that's that game. Just personified the advantage, right? That you have when you have and again, he's climbing up the NBA boards too. It's not just the college game, but when you have a 7'4" guy who can catch the ball with soft hands, and that's why, again, and we'll touch on this. I don't want to give too much away here, but in a matchup with UConn, I think for those reasons, you have to give Purdue way more of a puncher's chance than they seem to be given at this current time. Because I think the other key with Edey in that game, 33 seconds that he sat, that's it. I mean, man of that size sat 33 seconds in a game they had to have. That's almost unheard of, RJ.
Yeah, for a guy, for him to be able to play that much, that's pretty impressive. There's no other way you can shake it. That is an impressive amount to play. And he didn't seem like he was getting very tired either. He really didn't. It was pretty good. It was pretty cool to see him do that, and I want to see what he does. Now, UConn, they've got better bigs. We tried to throw a bunch of fouls at him. We did the hack-a-shack, and the problem is he makes his free throws. That this is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting what Burns has against him. It's going to be interesting what UConn has if they get there.
Yeah, I thought the other thing real quick here before we get to break, Illinois, I thought spontaneously combusted against UConn. I just feel like, of all the strategies in the world, I know you play a certain way. I know it's hard to adjust it on the fly, but you can't possibly believe that your best way to win is going to be attacking Klingon. You're trying to get that second foul on him. You're failing. At what point, RJ, do you say we have to try something else? And it's got to be before you're down 12 points, right, in the second half. You have to come to that realization long before then, I feel like.
Yeah, 100 block shots, 100 shots, man. That's what we're going to do. You've got to come to that realization. That was tough. That was tough to watch. It was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, though. You don't see – I mean, that happened quick. They didn't score for like 50 minutes of actual real time. That's something you saw in that Colorado State game. That's something Virginia would do, not scoring for that long. It was tough to watch. I felt for him. I felt for those guys at Illinois in that game.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was absolutely devastating to watch. All right, we'll come back. We'll touch on some bets maybe that we've made already on the Final Four, and a whole lot more. Got UConn travel issues. Is that something to consider in this handicap? We'll get to that when we come back. You're watching BetQLU on Odyssey Sports on the BetQL Network. We'll be back after this.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.
Chelsea, earlier in the show, we were talking a little bit about New Year's resolutions, blah, blah, blah. One thing I do need is I need a hobby. I need a new hobby. That's one of my goals. And I was thinking maybe I should retake up golf again. I used to play golf all the time, and I was decent at it. I was never going to blow anyone's mind, but I was pretty good. Now, I am summarily terrible. I suck at the game of golf now. But if you're going to commit to playing golf, you got to commit, and it's hard for me because I live right in the middle of the city, so I'd have to get myself some new clubs, have to start practicing, find some unis around the city, and I could do it, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So you are someone, you can swing a club, you live right there on a golf course. Can you talk me into getting back into golf?
No, because it's a hobby that's very expensive, and it takes a ton of time. This is why women get so mad at their husbands for playing golf. It is not because we hate golf. It's because it takes, on the low end, 5 hours. And then you have to go to the driving range before, get some swings in. Then you want to get some beers with your boys after the round. So it just turns into an all-day affair. And I guess, you don't have kids or any, thing tying you down. You don't have a pet at home, or I guess you have Bijou, but, cats don't need to be taken out all the time. So I think that's the knock on golf, is that it just takes so damn long. So maybe there is another hobby that is less time, time
consuming.
What's the opposite of time consuming? That you could pick up that also does not cost a fortune. Because I don't know if you've looked at the prices of golf clubs. They're not cheap for the good ones.
No. Well, that's the problem too, that's why I said if I'm going to do this, I have to do this, because if you're going to spend that money, I don't want to do it and then have my clubs collect dust in my closet or anything like that. I think what you should do is you can swing. Your husband obviously plays golf. You get Blake a little starter set. Next thing you know, family golf outing.
Oh, we do have clubs for her.
There you go.
But it's just, again, golf takes forever. And also, it is the middle of January, or the 1st of January. It feels like the middle of January. So it's not the greatest weather for playing golf when it's 37 degrees out. So maybe this spring.
All right. We'll keep that in mind. Maybe it'll happen. I'll keep track for you.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. No one brings the wow factor like the BetQL Network.
When did that happen?
Today.
And instantly, the crowd goes wild.
We celebrate the women of wagertainment.
Welcome back to BetQL Daily, presented by BetMGM.
Well, I did the right strategy there. Set you up for just complimenting me.
You know what? I get that.
Never miss a minute of the action. Download the BetQL app to take us anywhere you go. And watch all of the shows on Twitch TV/BetQL. Presented by the Kings of Sportsbooks. BetMGM. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
Welcome back to BetQLU here, getting you ready for the Final Four. And listen, it is in some ways exactly what we expected, and in others, it is certainly not. And so I think that's kind of the intrigue of it. But let's just sort of take these one by one, RJ. I already have one bet. I'm leaning on another. But in terms of first game, it's NC State as the 11 versus number 1 seeded Purdue. That number is currently 9.5, total of 145 and a half, shaded towards the over, as you can see over there on BetMGM. NC State has just been a darling. They've covered every number. They beat the crap out of Duke. They have taken advantage of their circumstances. They were a buzzer beater away against Virginia in the ACC tournament to not even coming close to making the tournament. And they have parlayed that fortune all the way to the Final Four. It's amazing. I think it's probably the most unlikely Final Four run we've ever seen. And the reason I say that is because, yes, there are teams that come from lower level leagues that have crashed the party before, but they were good in their leagues, right? Like they were 30-win type teams. They were experienced. You know the formula. This NC State team was just mediocre. They were sub 500 in their league. They just never looked the part, and they're here. So
Yep.
I don't know, RJ. Is it something that you just keep riding the magic carpet of Kevin Keats, or is this where the razzle dazzle finally falls off and fades away?
Well, they're facing a really good team and a really unstoppable force. And, I know that the NFL wants a piece of DJ Burns, but I don't know if they're going to get it. I've decided to stay away from this game altogether for that very reason. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Yeah, this is a pretty improbable run. If I remember right, Kentucky. I think it was here in Dallas when they went to the championship. I think it was the year UConn won with Shabazz. Kentucky was like an 8 seed. They knocked off Wichita State. It was undefeated, and they make their way. It was a very improbable Kentucky run, but still Kentucky. They're still a good team. They're always a good team.
Right.
This is different, man. I'm with you. In the grand scheme of things, VCU was a very good team when they made their run. Butler was a very good team when they made both of their runs. George Mason, they had a good year.
Yeah.
Had a good year. NC State had a bad year. And so what is the difference? This is the equivalent of, I don't know, LSU making a run in the men's game this year, or Ole Miss, right? Or that's what this is. That's what this is this season. This is not West Virginia. Same kind of thing. That's what this would have been like, and here they are. Kudos to them, man. Kudos, that fan base has stuck by them for years. I remember watching NC State games as a kid where that court was made of rubber. It wasn't wood. They had a rubber court. It was the weirdest damn thing. And I'm sure the players' knees loved it. But I'm old enough to remember those days at the old shoebox they played in. But it's good for them. This has been a fun run.
And look, yeah, that's the only bet I've made so far this week is Purdue. I bet it when it was 8.5, pretty much immediately. Because you tend to see this, I feel like anecdotally. I don't know if I don't really have any stats to back this up, but it just feels like this way to me. Like the team that overachieves and makes a magical run gets to the first game of that Final Four, and we cannot forget that this NC State team had to win the ACC tournament. What is that? 5 games?
5 games
in
5
days.
Did you know they had more wins in the ACC tournament that week than the Wizards have had at home all year? In the same building?
Damn.
The same building.
That is brutal. that is brutal if you're a Wizards fan. Oh my God. Oh, that's devastating. But yeah, like I can't put that out of my head. Like, hey, they beat Duke. Maybe they just have something going with the ACC right now, and it's just they're the hot hand in the ACC. But I think this is where DJ Burns, who kept them alive for the entirety of this run, I think this is where he kind of hits the post a little bit, because it's 7'4". It's a 7-foot tall post, and it's also he weighs more than DJ Burns, right? So if you want to say that, oh well, no, I mean Zach Edey's it's distributed differently, but he's 300 pounds, and so I don't think even if DJ Burns is able to create a little bit of space, sort of inside, right? Zach Edey's length is going to be a big problem. I think for DJ Burns in a way that like Filipowski was getting sent into the stands, right? I mean, he had nothing for DJ Burns. I thought that was an absolutely devastating day for Kyle Filipowski's stock. But Edey, going to be a very different story.
Yeah, it's back-to-back years of the tournament for Filipowski like that he got bullied. It's back-to-back years he got bullied by a big guy. The thing is, there's a way to beat Purdue, and it ain't the way NC State plays. Like, that's the thing.
Exactly.
It's just not the way they play. You're not going to beat them and that could be a trouble for UConn. Although I do think they have the ability down. They have enough guys around the perimeter to be able to keep them honest. So I think that gives UConn an advantage there. But I mean, you saw how did Tennessee stay in the game? They stayed in the game because they were really good from beyond the arc. It had nothing to do with the guys underneath. It had nothing to do with Adu or Awaka. It was everybody else. I mean, it was connect really. But that's what you got to do. You've got to have guys. And the way NC State plays, that ain't the formula to beat Purdue.
Right. So I think that's the key for me in this one. In the end, I think this is where you see the NC State team become who they were, who they always have been. And I will say this: Purdue has very quietly been just as dominant as UConn. I mean, I've been riding them for pretty much the entirety of the tournament. I bet them. Sorry, RJ. I bet them against Tennessee. I bet them against Gonzaga. I bet them in this one. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen the look-aheads on Purdue, UConn. Purdue +6. I'm going to bet them again. I know that's kind of crazy, and it's breaking my rule of not fading UConn. But I feel like that's too many against a Purdue team that I am breaking the code. For 6 points, 2 possessions, Purdue is playing amazing basketball. And now I think we talked about this all year about Purdue being different or at-bats or how to properly assess a job. Well, RJ, damn, how different is everything now that they've gotten to a Final Four? We feel differently about the whole thing, don't we? I mean, Matt Painter's not the butt of anybody's jokes anymore.
No, he's not. We do feel differently about him. UConn's a different animal, but so is Zach Edey. Like, he's just a different dude, and then they have to face them without seeing them. Tennessee had an advantage. They saw them already. They already knew, and it still didn't work. To go up there and not see them before and still have to go up and figure that out, it's tough ass.
It's pretty similar.
Really tough.
It played out pretty damn close to the Maui game, just in terms of the cadence of it, right? The fouls and everything. I mean, it was pretty similar. Those teams are pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, they were. And UConn and Purdue are. They are. And that game did play out a lot like Maui. I think it was 4 points versus 6. I mean, whatever. It's the same thing. It's a shot here or there. It's a foul. It's a free throw here or there. It did turn out pretty similar. And that's what teams are going to have to figure out when they go up against Purdue, because the difference with Purdue this year and last year is they got guys on the outside that can hit shots. I'll tell you this. If you're a UConn fan, they're annoying. They are annoying. And I'll tell you, Sister Jean, you are no longer public enemy number 1 for me. I hope you live a wonderful life the rest of the way. I hope you live a wonderful life. I'm sorry for all the mean things I said about you. I do think you're not taking that vow of poverty very seriously sometimes, but that's neither here nor there. But I'll tell you this, Purdue and their fan base and those guards, man, there is a new villain in the Choppy household. That's for damn sure.
How about that? Well, you mentioned it, UConn. UConn is this is just almost unbelievable. An 11.5-point favorite in the Final Four. They were an 8.5-point favorite at close against Illinois. Absolutely destroyed them, went on that 30-0 run. It is as dominant a championship run in any sport that I have ever seen, just in terms of just obliterating the margin, obliterating the spread. They have been just week after week killing everybody. And now they have the travel thing. And on one hand, it's like, well, that's a minor inconvenience, and Hurley's superstitious and weird, but he's also going to probably use this as a us against the world thing. Do you factor that in at all when you're thinking about this handicap against Alabama, the fact that they're getting there a little later than they expected?
Oh, baby. You bet your butt I am. I will tell you that. You could make this line 25, and I would take UConn. That is, the NCAA, if there is a conspiracy out there to try to tire them out, all you did was fuel them. Dan Hurley is going to use something completely unrelated to Alabama as motivation to destroy Alabama. This is going to be an epic destruction, I think. And I always root for the SEC. I'll root for Alabama in this game. I don't like UConn anyway. But there is nothing that would prevent me from betting UConn. They could play their backups, and I would take the 11.5. This is Dan Hurley is going to put on a motivational clinic on Saturday, without question.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to disagree. I think the only way is if it's an ungodly amount of threes, and that's what they do, right? That is what they do. But they're gonna have to shoot an out of body clip, and I will say that is different than what Illinois tried to do. Illinois just tried to take it right to him and punch him in the mouth, and you can't. That's what UConn does, and they do it way better than you. So I do think stylistically, there's a chance that it could be a little bit more challenging because UConn's not a great shooting team. We saw that when Klingon was off the floor, they really kind of struggled against Illinois. But I just am no way in shape or form running to the window to bet this. Why would I do that? Dude. Alabama's way overachieved to get to this point. I think you'd have to give me 19.5, 20.5.
Oh, to bet Bama?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude, look at that money line. Look at that. Minus 750 in a Final Four?
In the Final Four. No, I know. It's nuts. It's nuts.
And plus, that's a 314.
Plus 525 does not feel like it's good enough, right? Like it's like I need more. I need like 7-1, 8-1. I need something crazy. 525 is not enough for me.
Dude, Bama was like top 15 for like half the year. Like that. This is a Final Four. This isn't a 314 game. This is a Final Four. Come on, man.
I know.
Minus 750.
It's just as dominant as you will ever see. Seriously, 2 years replacing NBA players, replacing lottery picks, and they're still right back where they were. They covered every game last year in the tournament. They've covered every game this year in the tournament. 10 straight tournament covers for UConn. I was on pretty much the wrong side of all of them last year. I'm glad I stuck to my principles about this one. I'm not trying to scalp them. I'm taking my ego out. I'm not going to be stubborn. I'm not saying I'm betting on them, but I'm not betting against them. So lesson learned there, without a doubt. But yeah, I'm with you. The only way I can look in this one, I think I like the over. I don't think Alabama is going to be able to stop UConn whatsoever. I just don't think they're going to string together 3, 4, 5 stops at a time. Don't think they're capable. And Alabama is going to chuck threes, which even if they miss will lead to transition opportunities for UConn in long rebounds. So I like the over in that one. I think that's going to be okay. And that's the way I would look in this one. Spread, again, UConn or nothing, but I think the over definitely looks good, even at a total like 160.5. All right, been a lot of coaching movement. So we'll touch on that, coaching changes in college basketball, and more on the other side. You're watching BetQL U on the BetQL Network, Odyssey Sports. We'll be back after this.
You've been listening to BetQL U, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.
Chelsea, earlier in the show, we were talking a little bit about New Year's resolutions, blah, blah, blah. One thing I do need is I need a hobby. I need a new hobby. That's one of my goals. And I was thinking maybe I should retake up golf again. I used to play golf all the time, and I was decent at it. I was never going to blow anyone's mind, but I was pretty good. Now, I am summarily terrible. I suck at the game of golf now. But if you're going to commit to playing golf, you got to commit, and it's hard for me because I live right in the middle of the city, so I'd have to get myself some new clubs, have to start practicing, find some unis around the city, and I could do it, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So you are someone, you can swing a club, you live right there on a golf course. Can you talk me into getting back into golf?
No, because it's a hobby that's very expensive, and it takes a ton of time. This is why women get so mad at their husbands for playing golf. It is not because we hate golf. It's because it takes, on the low end, 5 hours. And then you have to go to the driving range before, get some swings in. Then you want to get some beers with your boys after the round. So it just turns into an all-day affair. And I guess, you don't have kids or any, thing tying you down. You don't have a pet at home, or I guess you have Bijou, but, cats don't need to be taken out all the time. So I think that's the knock on golf, is that it just takes so damn long. So maybe there is another hobby that is less time, time
consuming.
What's the opposite of time consuming? That you could pick up that also does not cost a fortune. Because I don't know if you've looked at the prices of golf clubs. They're not cheap for the good ones.
No. Well, that's the problem too, that's why I said, if I'm going to do this, I have to do this, because if you're going to spend that money, I don't want to do it and then have my clubs collect dust in my closet or anything like that. I think what you should do is, you can swing. Your husband obviously plays golf. You get Blake a little starter set. Next thing you know, family golf outing.
Oh, we do have clubs for her.
There you go.
But it's just, again, golf takes forever. And also, it is the middle of January, or the 1st of January. It feels like the middle of January. So it's not the greatest weather for playing golf when it's 37 degrees out. So maybe this spring.
All right. Well, keep that in mind. Maybe it'll happen. I'll keep track for you.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. No one brings the wow factor like the BetQL Network.
When did that happen?
Today.
And instantly, the crowd goes wild.
We celebrate the women of wagertainment.
Welcome back to BetQL Daily, presented by BetMGM.
Well, I did the right strategy there. Set you up for just complimenting me.
You know what? I get that.
Never miss a minute of the action. Download the BetQL app to take us anywhere you go and watch all of the shows on Twitch TV/BetQL. Presented by the Kings of Sportsbooks. BetMGM. Let's get back to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM.
All right, welcome back to BetQLU here on the BetQL Network. I'm John Martin. He is RJ Choppy. We're talking all things college basketball, all things Final Four. We previewed Purdue and NC State. We previewed UConn and Alabama. There's also been some coaching developments recently. Busy coaching carousel, as always, RJ. Eric Mussleman expected to be named the next coach at USC. Leaving Arkansas after what you would say is an overall very successful tenure. A couple of Elite Eights, some good basketball he has helped put together there in Fayetteville. But he's taking it to USC now, replacing Andy Enfield. What do you make of the move first for Mussleman getting back sort of out to his West Coast roots and taking over at USC?
I like the move for Mussleman. If that's where his roots are, and he did not have a very good year at Arkansas, he has had a pretty good run. But if you're a more of a West Coast guy, go do it. I'll be honest with you, that's a brutal job right now. You have 6-hour flights in your future, quite a bit of them. That's a brutal job. Do they care about basketball? See, that's the other thing you got to ask yourself. Do they care about basketball as much at USC as they do at Arkansas? The answer is no. Does that mean that we could have the same kind of situation with Arkansas and Mussleman that Andy Enfield had at USC? Were they going to give him an extension? That's what these coaches want. They want an extension. They're always wanting an extension. Were they going to give him one? I don't know. I thought he was a good enough coach to give him one. I would have given him one if I was Arkansas. Did they peak with him? Sure, but I mean, Elite Eights, it's pretty damn good. I mean, they could have been in a situation where they've made it to a Final Four. Another one. So yeah, he's a legit coach. I like him a lot. It's the same thing with Lincoln Riley, though, man. I know Oklahoma football is an elite job, but you're telling somebody that I can make millions of dollars and live in Santa Monica or Malibu versus Fayetteville. Like, I know Fayetteville's beautiful, but come on, like there's only so much you can do about the ocean. There's only 2 oceans in this country, and they got one of them. So it's tough. It's tough to say no to that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And also when you look at Mussleman's career, he's just sort of a vagabond, right? I don't mean that like in a negative way, but maybe nomad is the more politically correct term there. Then we'll go with nomad. How about that?
I know you like a politically incorrect term. I don't know. Is that I'm going to go Google this one.
I think it's just a more like. I think it's more. It's like you're homeless if you're a vagabond. He's not homeless.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I was like, what are we talking about? I was like, is this a Kim Mulkey LA Times kind of situation? We got to Google the word, see exactly what it means.
He's a nomad. I would say he's a coaching nomad. He hasn't really been anywhere in his career for more than 5 years. So it feels like, there's an expiration date. I saw somebody put that on social media today, and I think it's true. Like he kind of grinds on you, he wears on you a little bit, and he likes to move around. Right? He likes to move around. So, the years will be good, but it's not going to be a lifetime contract situation like you see in college basketball with Mussleman. But he will win. The reality is that he absolutely will win the former coach of the Chinese national team. Did you know that trivia about Eric Mussleman?
I forgot it. I don't think I knew that.
He coached China, the United States, Dominican Republic, and Venezuela. All 4 nations he has coached.
Man, he's a coaching lifer. You will never get this guy to retire.
Yes, he wants to coach every nation, every team ever. He will not rest until he's the coach in every league in America and every team in America. For Arkansas, from the people that I talk to, it sounds like it's a very attractive job, that they'll be able to, focus on their list of candidates and get a good one. Who makes sense to you at Arkansas, and what direction do you think they should go?
Are they wanting, from who you've talked to, are they wanting a name, or are they wanting to have an up and coming young coach, hire an assistant, that route?
Oh, I think they want a name, baby. They want some flash.
It's a great question. I mean, can they get Porter Moser to leave Oklahoma?
The three names that you hear are Chris Beard, Jerome Tang, and Will Wade. Those are the three names that you hear come up the most.
The easy one is Will Wade. You would be thumbing your nose at the rival down south at LSU, who had to get rid of him. We have seen a coach leave a school because of violations, go to another SEC school and dominate, and that's Bruce Pearl. We've seen that. And I think that's the one that I would absolutely go to. I think Will Wade is a fantastic coach. I think he's a sleazeball, but I think he's a fantastic coach. And they would absolutely they would own Memphis again. They would own certain recruiting hotbeds, St. Louis, Memphis. You're not terribly far from Dallas, Fort Worth. I love the Chris Beard idea because he does have Texas ties, and Arkansas. Did you know Arkansas? There's so many kids from Texas that go to Arkansas. Arkansas now gives in-state tuition to Texas high school kids. It's
wow.
crazy. If you finish at a certain level of your class, so it's a massive.
That's that Texarkana connection right there.
Right, it is. So they got a lot of kids from Texas that go to school at Arkansas. I mean, I think Beard would make sense there. I think Chris Beard's fantastic. I love him as a head coach. As a guy, I mean that's a different story. But as a head coach,
right?
I think there's no doubt that he can coach there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing is that you can sort of have your pick. So many programs think they can, and so few do. So it feels like Arkansas is definitely going to be able to choose who they want and not have to settle. We saw that at Louisville. Louisville thought that they were a certain spot in the hierarchy, and they got humbled. They had to go with their second, third, fourth choice and Pat Kelsey. Arkansas will not have to do that.
Well, I mean, it all depends on your NIL money. That's what this is about. What's your budget? What is your budget? Because remember did they get Dana Altman for a hot minute and he was like, nah, I'm out.
Yes.
If their budget's high, then they can get somebody. If it's not, then I think they might struggle.
100%. Yes. And I think they do have a budget. They feel like, and they should feel like they can compete. I mean, they were in the Elite Eight 2 straight years. I mean, they've proven that they belong at the highest level of college basketball. Those fans are nuts. I mean, they are so passionate there about Arkansas basketball, and that's really where it sort of comes from, right? If you have a passionate fan base and you've got the Walmart money, which they do, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be able to find some money for the NIL budget at Arkansas. So you've got everything you need, and I suspect that they'll absolutely be able to, keep that thing rolling, get that thing rolling. I mean, listen, I don't know what happened this year. There were a few teams around the country that you're just like, what went wrong? And that's one of them. Memphis, Arkansas, definitely. Michigan. I mean, there's a lot of schools that you could say that are like that, but absolutely right. They're one good hire away from being right back, one good get from being right back. SMU, which of course this is all related. SMU went with Andy Enfield. Does that feel random to you, or do you think it's a good hire for them as they venture into the ACC?
It's very random. I did not think that Rob Lanier deserved to get fired. He went from 10 wins to 20 wins in his second year at SMU. And then now they're going up in weight class. They're going to the ACC next year. They wanted a name. From what I've been told, there's this one guy who basically got Rob Lanier here. He was big into that. He's like, I want Andy Enfield. All right, I want that guy here. Wow. We all remember him from Dunk City at Florida Gulf Coast. Maybe Bronny. Maybe he brings Bronny to town. From what I heard, his girlfriend goes to SMU, whatever. So yeah, that they this is an exciting hire. It's for SMU. They're they're not obviously a top-tier team. They're going to a top-tier conference. They've got to get a bigger name coach than what they had. They think that's their philosophy. I don't think Rob Lanier did anything to deserve getting fired, to be honest with you. But, maybe this is a start for them. It's a good program if you get into a major conference, which they are. A lot of talent here.
Mm-hmm.
They keep the talent and stay in the city. They'll be just fine. We saw what they did with Larry Brown.
Yes.
They could do things.
Yes, no, they can, and they have the resources. It just kind of felt like Andy Enfield kind of taking the golden parachute and getting out of Dodge. I'm with you 100%. I think it's just bad juju for your program, bad karma for your program when you fire a coach that had turned that around. And he landed on his feet in the same league, right? He got hired at Rice 2 days after he got fired at SMU. And that goes to show you that that's no accident. I hate when coaches are done like that. There's a lot of times where it's justified, where guys, overstay their welcome. But in that case, it was a wrongdoing, no doubt. And we'll see if SMU gets their penance for it. But I'm with you. I did not like the way that was handled. Hey, that's going to do it for this week's edition of BetQLU. Should be an absolutely classic set of games. With any justice, we'll get the two best teams in the country facing off. Klingon versus Edey, UConn versus Purdue, 2-1 seeds, the two teams that have been the best all season long in college basketball. It's very rare, RJ, that we get that, right? Very rare that we get the objective two best teams in the country. Do you have any futures right now pending other than UConn, or are you just kind of riding it out at this point?
I'm just going to ride it out game to game. I got UConn, and I'll take your advice. I did go with Purdue. I'll take you on that one, but I'll take UConn to win it all, obviously, and I'll see what the line officially becomes when that game is. Yeah. But I'll wind up taking UConn in that one, I'm sure.
UConn minus 190. Yep, they are. They're minus 190 right now to win it all. Hey, that's going to do it for us today on this edition of BetQL. Enjoy the games this weekend. Thanks for tuning in while we broke everything down. For RJ Choppy, I'm John Martin. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you soon.
You've been listening to BetQLU, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the show, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.
Chelsea, earlier in the show, we were talking a little bit about New Year's resolutions, blah, blah, blah. One thing I do need is I need a hobby. I need a new hobby. That's one of my goals. And I was thinking maybe I should retake up golf again. I used to play golf all the time, and I was decent at it. I was never going to blow anyone's mind, but I was pretty good. Now, I am summarily terrible. I suck at the game of golf now. But if you're going to commit to playing golf, you got to commit, and it's hard for me because I live right in the middle of the city, so I'd have to get myself some new clubs, have to start practicing, find some unis around the city, and I could do it, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So you are someone, you can swing a club, you live right there on a golf course. Can you talk me into getting back into golf?
No, because it's a hobby that's very expensive, and it takes a ton of time. This is why women get so mad at their husbands for playing golf. It is not because we hate golf. It's because it takes, on the low end, 5 hours. And then you have to go to the driving range before, get some swings in. Then you want to get some beers with your boys after the round. So it just turns into an all-day affair. And I guess, you don't have kids or any, thing tying you down. You don't have a pet at home, or I guess you have Bijou, but, cats don't need to be taken out all the time. So I think that's the knock on golf, is that it just takes so damn long. So maybe there is another hobby that is less time, time
consuming.
What's the opposite of time consuming? That you could pick up that also does not cost a fortune. Because I don't know if you've looked at the prices of golf clubs. They're not cheap for the good ones.
No. Well, that's the problem too, that's why I said, if I'm going to do this, I have to do this, because if you're going to spend that money, I don't want to do it and then have my clubs collect dust in my closet or anything like that. I think what you should do is you can swing. Your husband obviously plays golf. You get Blake a little starter set. Next thing you know, family golf outing.
Oh, we do have clubs for her.
There you go.
But it's just, again, golf takes forever. And also, it is the middle of January or the 1st of January. It feels like the middle of January. So it's not the greatest weather for playing golf when it's 37 degrees out. So maybe this spring.
All right. Well, keep that in mind. Maybe it'll happen. I'll keep track for you.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. No one brings the wow factor like the BetQL Network.
When did that happen?
Today.
And instantly, the crowd goes wild.
We celebrate the women of wagertainment.
Welcome back to BetQL Daily, presented by BetMGM.
Well, I did the right strategy there. Set you up for just complimenting me.
You know what? I get that.
Never miss a minute of the action. Download the BetQL app to take us anywhere you go and watch all of the shows on Twitch TV/BetQL. Presented by the Kings of Sportsbooks. BetMGM.